Hi, this is Scott with AirMax, here to show you how to perform the recommended maintenance on your T100 1 horsepower rocking piston compressor. We recommend installing a new maintenance kit at the following intervals based on average running PSI. 1 to 7 PSI every 24 months, 8 to 12 PSI every 18 months, 13 PSI or higher every 12 months. Tools required: a crescent wrench, a 1/4 inch ratchet, 5/32 Allen by 1/4 inch socket, T20 Torx screwdriver, T25 Torx by 1/4 inch socket, T27 Torx by 1/4 inch socket, a 1/4 inch torque wrench with a capacity rated for 1 to 120 inch-pounds of torque for reassembly, a 7/16 inch by 1/4 inch socket, a No. 2 flathead screwdriver, a No. 2 Phillips screwdriver, a pick tool, anti-seize, and a heat source optional. Maintenance kit components include 2 head O-rings, 2 cylinder sleeves, 2 piston retainer plate screws, 2 piston cups, 2 cylinder O-rings, 4 leaf valves, 4 leaf valve screws, and 8 head screws. First, use a crescent wrench to loosen the stainless quick connect fitting and disconnect the manifold flex tube. For PS systems with T100 compressors, use a 5/32 Allen wrench to remove the 2 compressor manifold screws and set the manifold assembly aside. For LS systems with T100 compressors, the manifold assembly remains attached to the cabinet wall. Next, remove the 4 7/16 nuts and washers from the compressor mounting brackets and remove the compressor from the cabinet. Using a T25 Torx socket and ratchet, remove the 8 head screws, then rest the capacitor and mounting bracket on your work surface. The head screws can be discarded. Carefully separate the head cover plate from the valve plates using a No. 2 flat screwdriver. Note the position of the air filter in relation to the capacitor. This will be important during reassembly. Remove the 2 valve plates, noting the orientation of the leaf valves in relation to the capacitor. This will also be important during reassembly. Next, discard the head O-rings and cylinder O-rings from each valve plate. A pick tool may be necessary for O-ring removal. Set the valve plates aside. Using a T27 Torx socket and ratchet, remove the screws on the piston retainer plate for each cylinder. Screws are installed with thread lock, so heating briefly with a torch may be necessary to loosen the thread lock. Remove and discard the piston cylinder sleeves and worn piston cups. The piston retainer plates will be reused. Next, use a T20 Torx screwdriver to remove the 2 screws at the top of the fan guard and remove the fan guard from one end of the compressor. Rotate the fan slowly by hand until one piston reaches top dead center. Place one of the new piston cylinder sleeves over the piston, making sure that it rests evenly on the compressor body. Next, place a piston retainer plate into one of the new piston cups, making sure that the lip of the piston cup is facing up. Rest the piston cup and retainer plate on top of the piston cylinder sleeve so that the locating boss is aligned with the top rod pilot of the piston. Alignment of the locating boss is crucial to a proper installation. Ensure that the piston cup lip sits evenly on the cylinder sleeve before moving on to the next step. Using a T27 Torx socket and ratchet, slowly thread the new piston retainer plate screw in until it makes contact with the retainer plate. Then continue tightening until the piston cup is drawn down into the cylinder completely. To ensure that the locating boss is seated properly in the top rod pilot, simply loosen the screw 1/2 turn. Then try rotating the piston retainer plate. It will have very little travel clockwise or counterclockwise when seated properly. Finish tightening by torquing the screw to 100 inch-pounds. Hold the piston cylinder sleeve in place while rotating the fan until the second piston reaches top dead center. Repeat steps 8 through 11 for the second cylinder. Using a No. 2 Phillips screwdriver, remove the top and bottom valve limiters and leaf valves from one of the valve plates. Discard the leaf valves. The valve limiters will be reused. On one valve plate, install the bottom leaf valve first, making sure that the valve is seated properly on the locators. Install the bottom valve limiter and secure in place with a No. 2 Phillips screwdriver. Repeat step 14 for the top leaf valve and valve limiter. Repeat steps 13 through 15 on the second valve plate. Install the cylinder O-rings on the bottom of each valve plate, making sure the O-ring sits evenly in the groove. Place each valve plate on the piston cylinder sleeve, making sure that the top leaf valves are positioned appropriately in relation to the capacitor side of the compressor. Ensure that the valve plate sits evenly on the compressor body. An incorrect seat could indicate an incorrect retainer plate or cylinder sleeve installation. Install the head cover O-rings, making sure that they sit evenly in the groove. Reinstall the valve cover plate, ensuring the air filter is positioned appropriately in relation to the capacitor side of the compressor. Add anti-seize to each of the head cover screws, then install the capacitor bracket and 8 new head cover screws. We recommend going back and forth between screws in a W pattern to ensure the screws are evenly secured. Torque all 8 screws to 55 inch-pounds. Turn the fan by hand to ensure the pistons move freely before reinstalling the fan guard with 2 T20 torque screws. Ensure that the bottom fan guard tab sits properly in the base of the compressor and end bell. Before reinstalling the manifold assembly screws, add anti-seize to the threads of each manifold screw. For PS systems, reinstall the manifold assembly on the mounting bracket using a 5/32 Allen wrench and tighten to 45 to 50 inch-pounds. Reinstall the compressor in the cabinet and secure in place using a 7/16 inch washers and nuts. Next, attach the stainless quick connect fitting and tighten using a crescent wrench to ensure the flare is fully seated. Once you've completed the maintenance kit installation, we recommend changing the air filter as part of regularly scheduled maintenance. This should be done every 3 to 6 months. To replace the air filter, hold the base of the air filter canister and turn the cap counterclockwise to remove. Replace the old air filter element with a new one. We recommend cleaning the cap inlet tube at this time, as debris can impede airflow. Then reinstall the filter cap with the inlet facing down. Regularly scheduled maintenance on your AirMax compressor will keep your system running at its peak from season to season. If you have any questions regarding maintenance kit installation for your aeration system, contact AirMax Technical Support or email contact us at airmax-eco.com.